What is going on, YouTube? This is Wi-Fi Willie of the Raiders Rundown, and wow, amazing interview with David Carr on Colin Cowherd's show. I hope you check that out. This is very intense, man. What David Carr said shows that Derek Carr is looking at his options and could go to a different team in this upcoming offseason. Let me just show you a few key quotes from this interview, and let's talk about what Derek Carr's options might be. And I want to also know from you what the Raiders should do about this situation. So this is Colin Cowherd on Twitter. There's quoting David Carr. There has to be commitment from the organization that they will give him what he needs to succeed. He'd love to do it in Las Vegas, but wants a chance. Intense there. He needs to have weapons in order to succeed. So there's already Derek Carr upset with the roster at this point. And then you had this quote from the actual interview, which I wrote up myself. This is David Carr. This is exactly what he said. I can't guarantee that Derek is going to want to sign up for that. If it's going to be the same thing that he has done over the last 7 to 8 years, I can guarantee that, knowing my brother. He can guarantee that he's not going to want to sign up for that. So he was talking about the Raiders' problems that they've had for the last 7 to 8 years, you know, them not having that any type of stability. And so will Derek want to sign up for another rebuild, right? What has already taken place? Or will the Raiders give him what he needs to have a chance? And that's the problem here. And that's why I think this is very interesting, because Mark Davis has taken a long time to get a head coach and a GM for the situation that we have, for already having a franchise QB in place, for already having an interim head coach who took you to the playoffs. Mark Davis has taken a while to make a decision. He's already completed the Rooney Rule criteria. He's interviewed enough minority coaches. So technically he could make his move any moment now. And it's funny how in this interview with Colin Cowherd, David Carr starts out by saying that his situation is similar to Aaron Rodgers. That being said, the similarity is the fact that Derek doesn't want to go through a rebuild, just like Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to go through a rebuild in Green Bay. Obviously, Green Bay doesn't have as much cap space as the Raiders, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But it's funny, he also made this comment that I really want us to pay attention to, which is the fact that he said he was going to retire when Gruden retired. David said this in the Colin Cowherd show. He said Derek has also thought he was going to retire once Jon hung it up. He was going to hang it up once Jon retired. And this is what I've always thought the whole entire year. I've always thought that the moment that Gruden was canceled, I thought Carr was maybe done with the Raiders, because the moment that Gruden was fired, Carr and everybody on the team, the reason why they're the most upset is because they had high aspirations. Whether you like to crap on Gruden, crap on the Raiders or not, their aspirations were Super Bowl in 2021. And for the first 4 games, they looked like a Super Bowl team. They looked like the best offense in the NFL. Straight up, those are facts. And those were the aspirations. And when Gruden was canceled, Carr and a lot of players on the team were upset. You saw KJ Wright speak out about it, because they came here for Super Bowl aspirations, not a rebuild. They're not here for another rebuild. And when Gruden was taken out, Carr knew the writing was on the wall and it was going to be a rebuild. And that's why him and people like Crosby are fighting for Rich Bisaccia, because the only way you escape a rebuild in this situation is if you get Rich Bisaccia to continue what they already have. But that seems less and less likely as Mark Davis takes time to make a decision. And I think Carr, based on what David's saying, wants to move on. Why else would he be saying this on television? Why else would he mention any of this? I mean, he could just do a politically correct answer and say, no, their agents are going to work it out. I don't really get into, my brother's future and stuff like that. He could have easily done a politically correct answer, but he chose not to do so. And I think it is very, very important to pay close attention to that. So another option is and this is another thing I want to say. It's funny that this comes as a surprise to me when it shouldn't have, because the moment that we fired Mike Mayock meant that we were seriously cleaning house. And obviously, cleaning house also means a franchise QB, because you're not going to make this guy happy. You're not going to make Derek Carr happy going through another rebuild. And when you clean house with the GM, unless we promote somebody in-house, Dwayne Joseph is somebody who we're interviewing who we could promote in-house to be the GM, this really does spell a complete rebuild with the firing of Mike Mayock. That kind of means no Bisaccia and no Gus Bradley. And that's an important point that David Carr brought up. What happens when Gus Bradley leaves? Do we just totally remake the defense? Are we still a cover 3? What about the roster? We have certain players on this team geared towards Gus Bradley's defense. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it sucks because it really does seem like the main option is clean house. Because here's the pickle that Mark Davis is in. Originally, it seemed like Mark Davis was going to make a decision on Derek Carr, possibly extend him in order to attract a head coach to say, hey, when you join this team, you already have a franchise QB in place. There are some coaches who are going to want that, and there are some GMs who are going to want that. But there's also some who are going to see that as a problem and want to choose their own guy. So when you extend Carr, you limit your pool. At the same time, if you don't extend Carr and you have him just play out on this $19 million contract that he has left upcoming, then maybe that doesn't attract some GMs and coaches. They're like, I don't really want to join a team that's in this transitional period that's not fully committed to a rebuild and not fully committed to a bowl run. That might be odd. Oh, I have to come in here and make a huge decision on the QB. And that's another alternative. Maybe Mark Davis doesn't want to make this decision on Derek Carr. He wants to leave it to a future GM and a coach, just like Khalil Mack. He left it up to Jon Gruden. He left Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack up to Jon Gruden. Maybe he's leaving the Derek Carr question up to whoever the future GM and head coach is. That way he doesn't have to take responsibility for it. And it's very clear to me that Mark Davis and Derek Carr are not communicating. They are not communicating. If David Carr has to go out here on TV and make these points about he's not going to guarantee that his brother is going to sign up for another rebuild with the Raiders for more of the last 7 to 8 years, I mean, that shows that there's not communication between Davis and Carr, or else Carr wouldn't have to send his brother out here on Colin Cowherd for all the fans and everybody to see and talk about this stuff. Really. So it's very intense. I'm interested to see what happens, and we're going to talk more about Derek Carr's options right now. Very unfortunate if you're a Raiders fan coming in so far. So teams who may need a QB, what are Carr's options? Could he really go somewhere else where he's getting the weapons, where he's not going through a rebuild? Now, there are some options. There are some teams that I believe their quarterback is a question mark. Their quarterback is a complete question mark. So start off with the Lions, Jared Goff. You have some money invested there, but not too much because you acquired Goff during a trade. Who knows what's going to happen to that organization? They're sort of constantly in disarray. But the Lions aren't a team where you have more tools than the Raiders to go to a Super Bowl. That's one problem. The Broncos. Now, the Broncos definitely have the receiving core and the weapons for Derek Carr on offense. Defense has lost some players. Obviously, Von Miller's gone, but Bradley Chubb's great as well. So maybe Denver could be an option, play against the Raiders. I don't necessarily see it that's a significant boost in, weapons, or it's more of a Super Bowl caliber roster for Carr to join, but definitely is an option, definitely better than the Lions and the Texans. David Mills is a possibility to still start for the Texans. They did draft him, but they drafted him later in the later rounds, and that doesn't necessarily mean this guy's going to start, right? He's not necessarily the future. If they wanted to upgrade, they could go get Carr, but at the same time, I don't think Derek Carr would want to go there. Now the Steelers, they have Mason Rudolph. That's who they have. This is an opportunity for Derek Carr right here. This is a better offense. He has better weapons already if he joins day one, has better receivers overall. Better defense for sure. You got star players like TJ Watt. Big Ben was the problem for the Steelers. I mean, that was really what was holding them back, is they could never score points. like every time they could not score at all with Big Ben, and he is more stationary in the pocket than Derek Carr. Derek Carr, I know there's a lot of Carr haters out there, but he would give the Steelers more mobility at quarterback than what they had when they went to the playoffs this past year and lost to the Chiefs. So that, I think, for Derek, teaming up with Mike Tomlin, that would be his better option than the Raiders. But in my opinion, still just kind of better. Still better, but I don't think it's significantly better where you just totally jump on board. I still think it would be a decision that he'd have to make. Do I stay with the Raiders or go with the Steelers if that was on the table? Panthers, they're kind of in rebuild mode still, even with Matt Rule. Baker Mayfield, now we know there's not happiness going on with Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. For whatever reason, if you follow the Cleveland Browns closely, their line of communication is clearly broken. There's clearly some tension at times. Baker Mayfield's been suffering from injuries, and he's going into his contract year. You don't really know what his future is. They have to make a decision on whether or not they're going to sign Baker Mayfield. So whoever Kevin Stefanski is going to really evaluate quarterbacks with, they would have to make a decision on, does Derek Carr significantly help the Browns over Baker Mayfield? Now, I'm not sure he does. I think considering Baker's injury, yes, he definitely does. But I don't know how much better that is where you give up hardcore draft capital to get Derek Carr over Baker Mayfield. Same thing with Daniel Jones and the Giants. A little different because I think the Giants are definitely way further away from any kind of bowl run or anything like that. Maybe you upgrade there. Same with the Bears. Bears still going to rebuild. That they just got they just let go of their coach Nagy. So who knows what's going to happen there? Justin Fields, good quarterback in college, but struggled with Matt Nagy. And Tua Tagovailoa. Derek Carr is definitely an upgrade over Tua with the Dolphins, but they're going to have a new head coaching regime. I don't think that's a bowl run team. Taysom Hill with the Saints. Derek Carr's definitely an upgrade there, but Sean Payton just retired. They're not a bowl ready team. Now, the Washington football team, the defense regressed this past year. Jack Del Rio is the defensive coordinator there. There's already a connection to Derek Carr with that. However, I don't know that they would straight swing draft capital for Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke, but not significant enough to lose draft capital, especially with the fact that their defense regressed and wasn't that dominant 2020 defense that we saw a few years ago. Blaine Gabbert and the Buccaneers. Now, to me, I think the Steelers and the Buccaneers are the two targets on here where if I'm Derek Carr and I'm Derek Carr and I seriously think that Mark Davis is not going to get me weapons, is not going to get me help, and I'm going to go through a rebuild this year. If that's what Derek Carr, and I really believe that, the two teams on this list that I want to go to for sure are the Buccaneers or the Steelers. Those are the two teams, and then Denver would be my third team if I was Carr. Because Tom Brady, who knows, he might hang it up, and even Bruce Arians made that comment, if Tom Brady hangs it up, we got QBs on the roster who could fill in fine. That's kind of a dig at Tom Brady, in my opinion. You're saying Blaine Gabbert can fill in fine. Obviously, Blaine Gabbert can't fill in fine, okay? He can't fill in fine. Derek Carr, I've been saying this for a little bit. I've been saying at this point in his career, and especially after Brady lost in the playoffs, I said, is Derek Carr better than Tom Brady at this point in his career? Like, if the Buccaneers had Derek Carr in this previous matchup instead of Tom Brady, would they be more successful? I think so. I think Tom Brady obviously has a better career. In his prime, he was better. But I think at this current moment, Derek at 30, Brady at 40, I'm taking Derek. And I think if I am the Buccaneers and I know the Raiders want to give away their quarterback for some draft capital, I would definitely, if I'm the Buccaneers, and I know Brady's not coming back, I would go and hit play, and I would hit submit on the trade button, and I would get Derek Carr instantly. Same thing with the Steelers. If you feel like you're just a quarterback away, these rosters are already loaded, let's go. Buccaneers may need to make a decision on wide receiver, but I'm pretty sure they'll find one nicely. So let me know, man. Should the Raiders and Mark Davis fight to keep Derek Carr? I think as a fan, as someone who loves the Raiders, has watched for many years, as someone who has gone to Fresno State games, has watched Derek Carr at Fresno State, my hometown. Yes, I mean, I want the Raiders to go out there and fight to keep Derek Carr, but do I think that Derek Carr might leave? This is the first time ever where I actually think he might leave. I seriously think at this point, him straight up saying, my situation, and this is him. By the way, it's him. Some people say, David Carr said it wasn't Derek. No, it's the same. Derek is telling David what to say. Don't be naive. Don't be a child. This is Derek's. Whatever David says, that's what Derek's saying. Okay, so let's get that straight right away. This is the first time ever where I really feel like Derek Carr is not going to be a part of this team. And it's so crazy because it's also not the Raiders' choice. I really don't believe it's the Raiders' choice. This is why I pose the question this way. Should the Raiders and Mark Davis fight to keep Derek Carr? Because at this point, it seems like they're going to have to convince him. And let me tell you something. When you look at this quarterback free agent market, it's not very good. Jameis Winston's at the top of the list. So if you want to have in this draft, this QB draft, Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, all the draft analysts openly are saying, and you could believe them or you cannot, they're openly saying the quarterback class is weaker than last year and that no QB in the top of this class would even grade better than Trey Lance if they were in the draft last year. And I agree with him. I agree that there's not many good QBs. And I've actually had the privilege to watch a lot of QBs in college live this past year. So I mean, I worry about this. I actually do think this is actually possible, and it's funny that it seems like it's Derek's choice. He wants weapons. He wants a bull run. He's already made the cash, even considered retiring in the past. And the Raiders look like they're rebuilding. And Mark Davis doesn't look like he's adamant to convince Derek Carr to stay, because if he really wanted to convince Derek Carr to stay, he would hire an in-house GM, or he would hire a GM right now who is okay with Rich Bisaccia and keeping Gus Bradley and Greg Olsen. Then he'd ask Derek Carr, what do we need to improve? What do we need to improve? It doesn't seem like that. Seems like he wants to use this Gruden cancellation, this opportunity to push the reset button on the Las Vegas Raiders. And it sucks because it's not even what Mark Davis wanted. Mark Davis wanted Derek Carr and Jon Gruden to run this team for the next 10 years. And from what I'm hearing and from what I've seen them saying, reading between the lines, that was the plan. And that's why every single year when people said, oh, Gruden doesn't like Carr, Gruden's going to trade Carr, Gruden never, ever traded Carr at all. Never benched him once, right? Never even drafted a QB. The only thing he ever did was sign Marcus Mariota and clearly planned to use him like Taysom Hill. That was clearly the plan, was never to compete for Derek Carr's job. No matter what Raiders Twitter or Reddit wants to think, that's just the truth at this point, and it's proven in practice. So it's intense. It sucks. We'll see what happens. I don't think Mark's going to go for Rich Bisaccia, and I don't think he's going to ask Derek Carr what he needs, and I don't think he's going to extend Derek Carr before he signs a new head coach and GM. I think he's going to leave it up to them, and I think that puts everything in question, and it is very scary because Carr does have a really easy contract to get out of. No dead money, $19 million this year, and if I'm Derek Carr, I'm not playing on a one-year deal. When I have so much leverage, and when I have all these teams, even though these teams won't get me to a bowl game, none of these teams are going to get me to the Super Bowl, besides I think 2 of them, but they will pay him a multi-year, almost fully guaranteed contract. These teams, most of them, would pay him a multi-year deal with some guarantees. So if I'm Derek Carr, I'm not playing on a one-year contract and wasting getting hurt. I'm not doing that with no guarantees and no dead money. So he's going to and if I'm his agent, I'm telling Derek Carr, please, let's try to force a deal here and get an extension, because I don't want you to tear your ACL and get injured on this one-year deal and then have low value in the offseason. That's just what you would do practically. That's just the facts, and that's exactly how things tend to roll out. So Derek Carr's stats, too, clearly talented. 5th in yards, 13th in TDs, 5th in completion percentage, 76.3 PFF grade. So Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think, what's going to happen. We have $40 million in cap space. Obviously, an extension with Carr wouldn't complicate that, but I don't know if $40 million with what this team has. We have 35 players under contract. We got to sign basically 18 to complete the 53-man roster. Do you think we can get 18 players who can help us get to a Super Bowl with $40 million in cap space? Obviously, we can clear some money, cut Nassib, cut Littleton after June, little things like that could happen. But let me know what you think. I don't know if this is enough. I hope it's enough, and I hope Carr stays, but I'm really worried about the future, and I just actually I think I should have seen it coming actually a long time ago. Right when Gruden was canceled, and yes, we happened to make the playoffs and whatnot, and it was nice, but even Derek Carr said in the post-game presser, and we sort of ignored it. We acted like it was nothing. They asked him about his future and his contract, and he said, oh, I let my agent handle that. I just play quarterback. That's a very different tune than I'm a Raider for life, bro. That's the tune he was singing when Gruden was here. Now it's a different tune. When Gruden was canceled, I think he didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah, they made the playoffs. In the post-game presser of the playoffs, he also said, oh, we're not the most athletic team. We don't have the most talent, but we did it. He's saying these little things to say, we don't really have the roster, but we managed to do it. And he's probably saying partly because of me. So let me know what you think about that. I hope he stays. This has been Wi-Fi Willie. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like this video if you watched it all the way through. And remember to subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this. Peace out and have a good one.